She said, "Come along, machine." Anyone see it yet?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there it is. It's on a go slow. Okay.
Thank you. So please be aware that all meetings are recorded and will be made available to the public on our YouTube channel after the meeting has taken place. Your participation indicates your consent to being included in the meeting recording. I will move now to public participation. There will be a 10-minute public participation before the meeting to allow any resident to address the committee on any matter appearing on the agenda for this meeting on which you are not already speaking. No takers? Excellent. We shall move on then. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, I'll do the roll call at the same time.
Thank
Starting
you.
from the top, Councillor Cooper Marsh.
Present.
Councillor Thorpe.
Present.
Councillor Chapman.
Present.
Councillor Derek Giles.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Maslin, we have apologies for with valid reasons. Councillor Pitt.
Hello.
Councillor Christine Green.
Present.
Councillor Ferguson.
Present.
And Councillor Gregson.
Present.
That's the roll call complete, Chair.
Thank you very much, Karen. So item number 2, declarations of interest. To receive from councillors declarations as to disclosable pecuniary interests and or non-statutory disclosable interests, along with the nature of those interests in relation to any agenda item. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have a non-pecuniary interest in the application by the 3 pillars. I am a Freemason, but I am not involved in the 3 pillars organisation per se.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. Any more takes on Councillor Pitt?
So I'm not sure if it actually counts as a non-pecuniary interest, but because Hunts Forum, which I work for, works with Magpass, I won't vote on that one.
Okay, I don't think that's an interest. So, I mean, it's
just for my own peace of mind. It makes it easier for me. Basically, I'm just being lazy.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor, you there? Is in some form? You're muted. You're not? No, you're not. It's not working. He's not. We'll give him a couple of minutes to sort his tech out.
Like he's frozen.
Yeah, he's not having a good one, is he?
No.
He's muted.
Yeah. It's a bit jitchy up in Las Farm tonight for broadband.
Shaking his head now.
Councillor Ferguson, would you want to type your interest out in the chat and then you get your tech working? Is that okay?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a non-pecuniary interest. Apologise for that. Usually I'm quite good. I've got a non-pecuniary interest in 3 pillars because I volunteer for them, and they're one of my charities this year as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any more for any more? No, then we shall move on. Item number 3, outstanding resolutions. There aren't any, so do their councillors have anything they think should have been on there that are not? Okay.
Yes, I've got a question about. Sorry, Chairman. There's a question about the splash park. I thought we were going to see the splash park application tonight.
I asked Karen just before the meeting. I shall ask Karen to explain what's happened with the splash park and when it's next on the agenda. Karen.
Yes, of course. So the splash park, we have a meeting tomorrow. We couldn't schedule one with all parties in time for this finance committee. So we're meeting tomorrow for the preliminary meeting. We've had all the documentation. So it will be scheduled for finance in April and full council at the end of April.
Okay, Karen.
But it's all progressing well at the moment, which is good.
Answer the question, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. I think that the I'm a bit concerned about the Splash Park not being on this evening, and I appreciate that we may not be able to have a meeting, and the Deputy Clerk and whoever else is meeting them may not be able to meet till tomorrow. But I think it is important that this be dealt with sooner rather than later, and if there's any chance at all of it being put on the next full council agenda, I would be grateful if that could happen, even if it means arranging a specific meeting of this committee to do that.
Is that a motion, Councillor Chapman? Proposal?
Well, if I'm allowed to make a motion of something that's not on the agenda, but it does give me concern that there will be otherwise there'll be another 6 weeks delay before we consider this, and I'd be grateful if we could have an extraordinary meeting of this committee, if that would mean that we could get it onto the next town council agenda.
If you have a seconder for that,
Yeah.
Giles, I'll accept your motion without notice for that. So,
could I speak as well?
Yes, please,
If I
Karen.
may. I'm just looking at the timeline. Obviously, the first meeting's tomorrow. The agenda for the full council goes out next week. I'm not sure we would have the time to get an extraordinary finance in, and plus we've got the reports that Teddy and I need to do after this meeting and the terms to draw up.
Can we not link it onto the full town council?
No,
The town council needs to go out next week, so we'd have to, Teddy and myself and Philip would have had to have had the meeting. This is the first one. There could need to be a second one with the documentation drawn up for it to go forward. I don't think we have the timescale. It was a short timescale to try and get it onto this finance meeting, which is why it didn't make it, because we only had a 4 or 5 day window to get everyone together.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I think it would be better for this committee to consider it, maybe an extraordinary meeting of this committee before the town council, the full town council, because it's quite a technical question. It requires reviewing an extensive business plan, and I think it would be best if this committee judged that application and made a recommendation to town council rather than the whole of the town council have to consider the plan, which would be lots of effort and lots of specialist work.
Yes.
I would second that.
Okay.
Can I just check, are you asking for an extraordinary finance meeting next week? At the beginning of next week? I don't think we're going to be able to get that in place. Because the full council agenda goes out next week.
And Chair, if I may, sorry, Councillor Pitt's got his hand up. I've got my hand up, but
Okay, Councillor Chapman first and Councillor Pitt.
Chair, my suggestion would be that it could go on the full council agenda without the recommendation being on there. So it could be listed as an item on the full council agenda. If there isn't a recommendation by that time, then then it would be carried over to the next meeting. I think that would be a pragmatic approach to dealing with this.
Yes, if the chair of the council will be happy with having it on his full agenda, Councillor Ferguson. You're muted.
I'd really rather not. I think we've got a history of rushing into Splash Park decisions.
Okay.
It's what we need to do is follow the process and give it careful consideration and come to full council with a sensible application. We don't want to do what we've done before and turn up with a proposal that people haven't considered properly and it might get voted for in a hurry and cause more problems. We have to consider this carefully. We have to work out where the money's going to come from, and we can't really consider that until the Finance and Governance Committee has approved the funding.
So we have the motion. So we'll. Do you have another? Do we have your motion? No, do we, Councillor Ferguson, about leaving it until we have the meetings in place, or do we still have the substantial motion that Councillor Chapman's put through?
Chair, I'm withdrawing my motion.
Okay, which I thought.
Teddy,
I thought it would get general support.
Teddy has put a comment in the chat box about it.
Yes, I've
Goes
just seen.
against the
Yeah, I've
grant
just
aid
seen that.
policy.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on then. Minutes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, minutes. To approve the minutes of the Finance and Governance Committee held on the 9th of February 2021 as a true and accurate record.
Oh, bloody
Any
hell.
councillors have any comments or alterations to these minutes?
Not happy to recommend them for approval.
Thank you, Councillor Pitts. The seconder.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Anybody wish to speak on this proposal for the minutes? Councillor Chapman, you're laughing.
Seconding it, but
Oh, okay, Councillor Green.
Flash Councillor Green got in as usual before me.
Okay, then, is any comments before I put to the vote? None, in which case we shall vote on these minutes. All in favour?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Against?
Yeah.
Against?
Mr. Chairman, before you take the vote, I am sure I tendered my apologies, but they weren't recorded.
Have a look. We shall check back on. Is that okay to check back the record on that, Karen? They were noted,
Yes,
and then
fine.
amend
I'll
the
check
minutes
the
accordingly.
recording and amend the minutes to reflect.
Yeah, I did send you an email, Karen.
Thank you, Gordon. I'll double check.
Okay, thank you, Thank you, Karen. Okay, so we'll do that vote again. All in favour of this
Yeah.
accepting? Okay. Again.
In view of that, I will abstain.
Aye.
Okay, one abstention. Okay, one abstention, the rest 4. Brilliant. My iPad's going to do my head in today. It keeps falling over. Wrong way. Okay, item number 5, grant applications. Now, we've had a request to move the applications about. So MAGPAS will be heard first, and then the 3 pillars. They are due to be on at 8 o'clock. I can't see MAGPAS taking half hour to decide. So with the committee's approval, after we have heard MAGPAS, if 3 pillars have not attended, we will move on to payments, then governance, and then unspent budget. However, if 3 pillars do appear and to wait for their grant application, do members mind if we pop that in between any agenda item we're discussing?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. We shall do that then. Okay, so we shall then move the floor to MAGPAS for grant application.
So hello everyone, thank you so much for inviting us along this evening. I'm actually joined by my colleague Shelley Green. She's joined me this evening just because I've spent a little bit of time out of the office recently, so she's here just in case I'm asked any questions that maybe I'm not sure of the answer to. Yes, we're here this evening to formally submit our request for a grant of £5,000 towards our life-saving medical care across St Neots. As you can imagine, it has been an incredibly challenging 12 months for the charity, and specifically our clinicians who have been working round the clock on the front line, dealing with finding new ways of working, having to bear incredible frustration when arriving at scene and having to think about PPE when all they're really desperate to do is get straight into that patient care, having to really just consider so many new ways of operating. So it has been a challenging time, but they've been incredible, our clinicians, and having faced some of the biggest challenges of their career, have been a real, really proud of them and real asset to the charity. As you can see in the application, we did provide a map of where our activations were throughout our 1920 reporting period. We are your local air ambulance charity, and we were faced with having to bear unexpected costs through this pandemic, and so many of our regular income streams came to a real abrupt halt when a lot of our community fundraising activity, our events fundraising activity, our recruitment of new lottery players all stopped very quickly. So it has been a challenging year, And thank you so much for considering the application. And I'd be really happy to answer any questions you might have about anything contained in the report or any other questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Chairman. You'd be disappointed if I didn't ask a question.
Well, I was looking for your hand up, to be honest.
We recently had an application from the East Anglia Air Ambulance to this council. So I have to ask you the same questions. In particular, how much is I've been looking. I can't actually find it. I'm sure it's in there. But how much support are you receiving from other councils within the area that you cover?
So year to date, we have received £14,000 from other parish and town councils. And that, when I say year to date, our financial year starts at the beginning of July.
Okay. And can you tell me who those councils were?
It's quite a long list, actually. I can bring it up.
Just the major ones, please.
Ampthill Hill Town Council, Biggleswade Town Council, Mainey Parish Council. There's Effect Yaxley Parish Council. I'm trying to think of some of the others.
Okay, thank you. If they're the top ones, yeah. And have you applied for funding from other sources besides through councils?
Yes, so we do raise funds through charitable trusts and foundations. And year to date, our income specifically from trusts and foundations is £160,000.
Okay, thank you. And if I can just ask a question of the chairman, can he recall how much we sponsored the East Anglian Air Ambulance, or can our deputy clerk recall that?
I can't. Perhaps Theodora or deputy clerk can.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Councillor Chapman?
Can you recall how much we sponsored the East Anglian Air Ambulance, please?
It was a few £100. I just need to open the spreadsheet to double check that. Just bear with me for a minute.
Would it be possible just for me to add something, please?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Thank you. East Anglian Air Ambulance and ourselves are both operational across Cambridgeshire. Just to give you a sense of kind of the frequency of call-outs. In our 1920 reporting period, Magpass were dispatched across Cambridgeshire over 600 times, with East Anglian dispatched 390 times. So we are both operational across Cambridgeshire. We are the air ambulance dispatched to St Neots and wider Cambridgeshire most regularly. And what I would say, I don't know if this was part of the financials that we submitted, but we are a charity that historically maintain very low reserves. Generally, most of what we do raise goes back into our service, and that is clear from years of annual accounts that are available if anyone would like to look at them or scrutinise them. So yes, we just wanted to explain.
Thank you. We'll give Theodora a couple more minutes. Any other questions, councillors, while we're on Theodora?
Hi, sorry, the amount was £500 in March 20. Is there another question, or that's all?
That's it. The councillors. Oh, Councillor Chapman, you're muted.
Sorry, Chairman. Through you, I thought we'd had recently had an application from the East Anglia. Yeah, I thought we'd had a more recent application than March 20.
Just
I may be mistaken, but
Yes, I think it's a mistake. Yeah, I'm going through the different tabs. There've only been a few meetings. Maybe just because we've got quarterly meetings, that's why it seems a little bit more recent.
time flies when you're having fun. I was just a little bit concerned that you know, if we are to support the air ambulance service, that we do so on an even basis.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to find our grants table as into what we've got left where.
It's emailed by Theodora.
I had seen it. I just got lost in the mountains of emails. Okay. Are there any other councillors? Other questions, councillors? Or Councillor Gregson?
I was only going to reply to Barry in that was the last grant to MAGPAS, not to East Anglian. Yeah.
Okay, so we have it's £5,000 this grant.
The Chair, Councillor Thorpe's hand is up.
Sorry, I'm looking at a table and I'm away from a screen because my iPad's on the blink to submit. So, Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to Councillor Chapman's, if MAGPAS is servicing this area more than the East Anglia Air Ambulance, we can't really draw a straight comparison one for one. I think we've heard that, if you could confirm that, Sarah, that MAGPAS services this area more than the East Anglian Air Ambulance does.
So this is all information that has come from our monitoring from our database and publicly available in annual accounts. We do both cover the Cambridgeshire area. That's absolutely true. However, just by way of our location, we are the air ambulance most likely to be called to, St Neots, and it's just kind of the geography of the situation. And we would call ourselves your local air ambulance because of where we are situated, where we're located. But yeah, the figures are there, and I can provide the information afterwards if it's required.
So you're located at Whitton, are you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thorpe. Okay, Councillor Chapman.
Yes, sorry, Chairman. I just want to clarify, just in case anyone gets the wrong. I'm fully supportive of this, but my concern was if either we already granted the same or larger or smaller amount to the East Anglian Air Ambulance. I believe that we have made a grant to them. And secondly, if we hadn't done, whether or not what would happen is we would then get a further grant application for a similar amount. But I do appreciate that MAGPAS are our local air ambulance service, what have you, and should I ever need them, I hope that they will be.
So on the grant application, they do state the £500, but the feedback from the previous meeting is just a future application for a large amount could be considered as always. So this is what this is. This is a come back for some more, and it's needed. So I'm more than happy to propose this from the chair, the full amount, £5,000 to MAGPAS.
Councillor,
I would second that.
I'm happy to second. Oh, sorry, you beat me.
I keep doing that, yeah, because I think although the two organisations have similarities, we should always consider each application on its individual presentation and what they're actually requesting, because they're still individual organisations, and I think we should look at each one alone. And regarding the last year and the difficulties, I think it's fantastic they've kept going, and I fully second. I'm very happy to second the full amount.
Yeah, they do say they done 30 activations in St Neots at £3,000 dispatch. So I mean, I don't want to say utilising them well, because that's a really bad thing to say. we don't want to utilise them. Which fund do we take this from? We have another grant tonight for a substantial amount as well. So we have the COVID fund sitting at 6.5. Community support groups at 7,339. General grants at 8,808. And new provision grant is only 2.9, so that's not going to can't be touched. So, any preferences, councillors? If we vote for which fund, so I need one to put this in my proposal.
I would suggest community support, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the proposal would be to grant the full amount of £5,000 on community support groups. My second is Christine Green's. Okay, Councillor Green.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone wish to speak on this proposal? Councillor Chapman.
Sorry, Chair, but I actually disagree that it should come from the community support grant, because we have a further grant application to consider for 3 pillars, which I believe should come from that grant fund, and we have £6,500 in COVID support, and very little coming to the end of the year, and the need has been identified as being caused by the current COVID pandemic. So I'd ask, was it Councillor Thorpe who made the original proposal? Was it you, Chairman?
It was me. It was me, Councillor.
I'd ask whether or not you'd accept an amendment to take it from the COVID.
Councillor Thorpe made the original proposal, thinking along the lines that the increased workload on 3 pillars has been brought about by the COVID, taking homeless off the streets, that we should take the 3 pillars money from the COVID. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other.
It is. We can. There's money in pots. So if we need to grant more money later, we can pull money from different pots if we need to. I'm sure. I think that's allowed, isn't it? Not. We can pull money from pots and make up the amount. Councillor Gregson.
I believe we can buy.
You do half and half, because then we could cover both of them.
There we go. 2.5. So 2,500 from COVID and 2,500 from community. I'll take that amendment. Is that correct, Councillor? Is that okay, Councillor Gregson?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's the proposal. Grant the full amount, 2,500 from community support, and 2,500 from the COVID-19 fund.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. No other comments? We'll go to the vote. All in favour?
Aye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Against? Abstentions? That's
I'll
carried
abstain.
then. Abstention from Ben. Thank you. That's okay. Thank you for your time tonight, Sarah and Shelley. Much appreciated. And yeah, we shall move on.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
As someone who's had to experience the devastation that COVID can cause a family, I just want to say thank you very, very much from all of us at Magpass. It really is appreciated. Thank you.
There you go. It's a great job you do. Really good job.
One more thing, Mr. Chairman. We do ask that wherever you can, you credit the town council with this publicity, with this grant.
Of course, I will. Yeah, we'll have some discussions about that this week. No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Right, next on the agenda would be 3 pillars, but they're not here yet. So what I will do, I'll move on to item number 6, payments. To note the payments for January 2021. Now, do you wish me to? Do you wish me to go through every single one of these pages? I've got to get there now. Just bear with me, councillors.
Page 172 onto the PDF.
These are that way. There we go. There we go. 172 attachment 3. Okay, I shall move by page. So, okay, we have. Yes, Karen.
Could we just check if Teddy, our RFO, has received any questions on the payments prior to the meeting?
Yes, I will. Yes, I was going to get there. We'll thank you for reminding me again, though. Theodora, do you have any questions regarding payments?
No questions received.
Thank you very much. Okay, we should go page by page. So we will start with attachment 3, page 1, which is the Barclaycard list of payments made between the 1st of January and the 31st of January 2021. Okay, we'll go to next item is page 1, St Neots Town Council Priory Centre current account list of payments made between the 1st of January and 31st of January 2021. The next page in attachment 3 is page 3879 in the top right, which is a list of purchase ledger payments. No questions. Page 3880 of list of purchase ledger payments. Page 3881 of list of purchase ledger payments. Councillor Gregson.
I was just going to ask if we could, sorry, just from a personnel point of view, if we could just explain the unfunded pensions.
Theodora?
I think that's been covered before. Can't remember whether in personnel. It's to do with 2 previous members of the Priory Centre. It has happened before my time, so I don't know the details, but we basically have to pay pension until they're alive, until death. But I don't know the details.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think it was called something else when we discussed it at personnel, but it's the same.
It's the same, yeah. Yes,
the same thing. Okay.
It's unfunded pension or added years pension is the account code. Yeah, so it is in the budget.
I think it was just the unfunded bit there that I was.
Yeah,
it's the added years pensions.
Added years pension. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, it's about 4,000 per year.
Okay. Okay, I'm making out myself. Okay, any other questions? No, we'll move on to page 3882. No hands. 3883. Okay. Well, now we're moving on to page 1 of the Town Council current account list of payments made between the 1st of Jan and the 31st of Jan 2021. Page 2.
Chair.
Councillor Chapman.
It's well related to the payment, but can I ask, Scottish and Southern Energy, are these a green energy supplier?
I don't know. I know that most of the sites are with them, apart from the street lights, which is Heaven Power. I don't know whether they're green or not.
Sorry, it'll depend on the tariff. There'll be green tariffs and non-green tariffs.
Well, okay. Thank you. I'll rephrase my question. Are we on a green tariff? Now, I don't expect anyone to be able to answer, but I do think that given our climate emergency declaration, that we should be purchasing green electricity.
That's one for the ops team. the Ops budget, the Ops committee.
No, it's not.
Stand up, Justin.
Ferguson, yeah, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, electricity comes from National Grid. It's all the same. Anybody who tells you they're getting a green tariff it's a marketing con. Yeah, all electricity comes from National Grid. That we only generate as much electricity as we use. If you think you're buying green electricity, then your electricity supplier is lying to you. It comes from gas turbines, nuclear, and coal.
Wind turbines.
Some wind turbines as well. Yeah.
Solar farms. We can go on forever. Okay. Any more questions, councillors? Okay, that concludes the payments. Are 3 pillars here? Not yet, are they?
Sorry, I've got one question. Sorry.
Councillor Green.
The St Neots Community Support grant withdrawn. Can you remind me what that? Oh, drawdown. Sorry, I can't read. Sorry. Ignore that. Ignore that.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, governance. This may take some time. We are looking at the Financial Regulations 2021 draft and the Investment Strategy 2021 draft. Both documents are in item 4 of this attachment 4 of this agenda. Have you all had a chance to read it?
Yeah.
Councillor Pitt.
Thank you, Chair. So I've only this afternoon had a look through it and made some notes. I would have been more helpful if I'd done that earlier and discussed them with Theodora beforehand. So I'm sorry, apologise to her and everyone that I didn't manage to do that. Can I suggest that I talk through the proposed amendments that I have noted and then take advice from Theodora whether this needs to be, whether we can process these proposed amendments tonight or whether it needs to come back to the F&G committee at a following meeting. I don't want to sort of rush through some reworded, some changes and, get ourselves into hot water, as it were.
Yep.
Does that sound like a reasonable plan?
I'm happy with that. Theodora and Karen have their hand up, so I'll let Theodora speak first, and then Karen.
Thank you. I think we're going to say the same thing, though, Chair. But I'll let Teddy speak first. Thank you.
Yeah. So I did email you, Chair.
Yeah.
An hour ago, just to clarify that because both documents were reviewed in the current financial year, there wasn't any need for them to be reviewed so soon. The financial regulations were adopted in September at the full council meeting. They were meant to be reviewed though in the last financial year. So that's why in the timetable, in the approved timetable, they were due for review in March together with the risk register, but we decided to leave the risk register for next meeting. I haven't done any amendments to the documents with the exception of just one the current interest on the investment strategy. I have left the rest the same because it's been very soon since both of these documents were reviewed and approved by the same committee and the same council. Having read Ben's email at 7:10, I think all this would need to be given some consideration by myself, perhaps the clerk, because they're all very our financial regulations are very bespoke, and we do have to be careful when we do lots of changes, just to make sure that we're following, the legal requirements and best practice, and perhaps one or two of them may need to be double checked with either the clerk or SLCC. So if obviously Ben suggests that these are deferred, I'll be happy with that, because otherwise I haven't had any time to really consider any of those.
Okay, thank you. Which documents are your amendments on, Councillor Pitt? Is it on all three?
It's just on the financial regulations.
Just on finance. So we could review the we could defer the financial regs, being it's only not long done them, until next meeting, and then review the investment strategy policy tonight. In that case, but before we do that, come on.
Chair, sorry, I don't know if Karen's got anything else to add. I mean, I think that sounds sensible. It might be useful just so basically some of them are kind of technical, some of them are more kind of strategic, and so it might be useful just to kind of get what's the word? I'll run some of them past the committee to see if we're happy with the direction of travel, and if the spirit of the amendment is generally approved, then we look at the specific wording, outside of the meeting and bring it back as, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, Karen.
The sensible thing would be, as Teddy suggested, the latest of getting the suggested amendments, that we do defer it, because the officers and the clerk should check those amendments first before they are put to the committee for discussion.
Okay, in which case, following RFO and deputy clerk's decisions, we'll defer this till next meeting. That's the financial regs.
Chair, I have my hand up to speak on this.
Okay, Councillor Chapman.
Although there are elements of this that are bespoke, we purposely took the model financial regulations from CPEL to base these on at the last revision. It was quite a hard process, and we had hours of meetings in total, starting with I think lasting over 18 months probably, to come to these financial regulations. There's not been any major change. Just because they need to be reviewed each year doesn't mean that we should take that as an opportunity to move further away from the model financial regulations. So 6 months or less since we approved them doesn't seem, it seems too early to be looking at these again. And I think we need to provide stability to the staff in having constant financial regulations and not changing them, in 6 months' time or in a short period. So I think we should really accept that these are the ones that we took a long time to agree with, and if they're to be deferred, to defer them until next year.
Okay. We could defer them until next meeting still, and hear what amendments that Councillor Pitt would like to make, and then we can decide next meeting whether we want them in the financial regs or not. So I think we should hear what the changes he would, or the amendments he would like to make. But I don't think we should start soon. I think you should first get clarification from Theodora and the clerk first before, so we at least have the right information given to us for these regs, rather than just hearing now and then wait and come back another meeting and things are being dropped off. So let's do that. So we'll defer these next meeting. Then we'll relook at them, and with the recommendations that Councillor Pitt wants to put forward after consultation with Theodora and the clerk. Is that okay, Councillor Pitt?
That's great, thank you.
That's my proposal for that. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, second that.
Okay, we would like to speak. Councillor Thorpe has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just that I agree with Councillor Chapman. We went to a lot of effort over a long period of time to get things stable, and using the CAPALC guide. It served us well for the last 6 months or so, and I don't honestly see the need really for any further changes. I agree that we should have an element of stability for the staff, that there is no point in us accepting a guide from CAPALC and then modifying it out of all proportion, as we have done in the past, which has led to confusion amongst the staff and amongst councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. I will comment back on that before I pass over to Councillor Gross's hand up. But all we are doing is looking at a possible amendments to the. They're not changing yet. They're just possible amendments. We might choose not to take the next meeting, but the amendments may serve us better in the financial reg. So let's not hear something because we've only just changed them. You know, these might have a positive impact for our officers. So for that reason, I do wish to defer this, and you know, I'll carry on with that proposal. And Councillor Pitt.
Thank you. Just to reassure councillors that may be whatever, not suspicious, but concerned about my motives. Most of the changes are either just to tighten up the language. There's a couple of changes that I feel the practice doesn't follow the policy, but the current practice is they're very detailed, like, you know, nitpicking perhaps, but I think the policy and the practice need to line up. And where the practice is slightly out of kilter with the policy, I feel we need to address that. And it's just about tidying and tightening the language to ensure that we're following the policy to the letter.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pitt. Okay, my proposal is to defer this next meeting once the RFO and Clerk has had their input on the amendments. All four?
Yeah.
Yeah, for.
Yep, for against. 1, 2, abstentions. That's carried. Thank you, Councillors. The next is the Investment Strategy 2021 to review, and you'll find the change on page 4 of 5, on which the yield on the 2nd of March 2021 is 0.0466%. Is that the right change, Teddy?
Yes, just for reference. Yeah, it's
okay.
It's much lower comparing to last year, so it's hardly anything, but.
Yeah, it's the change nonetheless.
A matter of fact, actually, just quoting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anybody wish to speak on this? I propose we accept this amendment into the policy.
Yeah, second that.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt. Anybody wish to speak on this? On the strategy? Sorry, the strategy. Yeah, not the policy, strategy. Anyone wish to speak on that? No. All in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Last item on the agenda is the until 3 pillars, if they turn up, is the item 8 unspent budget expenditure. Members to approve earmark balances unspent at 31st of March 2021 on the following accounts. Memorial inspections, the cage lock-up, tree maintenance, electric car charging points, carbon neutral projects, play areas, bandstands, speed reduction signs, tourism and marketing website, youth council provisions, splash park loan repayments, election expenses, highways improvements, and equipment and furniture and office. Right.
Sorry, Chair, there's a comment from our RFO regarding the previous motion. I'll just draw your attention to it in the chat.
Recommended to approval to FC. Yes.
So I'm not sure the wording of the motion.
Yes, so sorry, yeah.
So rather to accept it, but yeah.
Approve it to a full council, yeah, so that's my mistake, sorry. Okay. Right, we have Theodora, would you want to have a chat about the item 8, councillors?
Yes, I just thought that because we've already had 2 proposals and for funds to be earmarked, actually 3. I think it was the festival, the music festival, the staff training budget, and the councillors training budget to be earmarked at the end of the year. I've gone through the budget notes, and there have been a few codes where when the budget was considered, the council considered next year's budget on the basis that what we've got in the current year's budget is going to be earmarked at the end of the year. So some of the accounts in the list come from those notes. Hopefully they're all obvious. If not, then I can provide some figures of what the budget is currently or at last week, a budget left. And the other expenditure was the capital expenditure for which we precept this year. Hardly any of this has been spent. So I think the council wanted to earmark the funds so that the projects can be carried on post this financial year. And the reason why we haven't got the amounts is because we're not sure what the balances would be at 31st of March. I have had the amounts just to estimate the impact on the general reserve when we move those funds, and it all looks okay. We'll still be in a good general reserve position, and I just thought it's better for these movements to be approved in the year, i.e. before 31st of March, because there's some argument that it's good for the approval to happen in the same year. That's something that I've heard in the past. So this is why that suggestion for this resolution to be made comes from.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Director. Councillor Chapman has a hand up.
Chair, I think this is admirably sensible. Some of these have been proposed by yourself and others by other councillors. I think it would make complete sense to move these into earmarked reserves at the end of this year, and I'd like to make that proposal. And I'm looking to Councillor Green to dive in and say I second it.
I was just about to do that.
Okay, is that a second?
That wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so any councillors wish to speak on the proposal? Councillor Pitt.
Thank you. So I think this is a really great, very sensible proposal. I think I sort of touched on it in the notes that I sent through to Theodora a few moments ago regarding the financial regulations. I understand her point about wishing to make these moves to earmark reserves in the current financial year for, in terms of neatness of accounting. And I'm not quite sure how to square that with my general feeling. So I think if we've got, for example, our capital expenditure, for which we had quite a few of the points that are bullet pointed in this agenda item are from capital expenditure, we know we haven't spent them. So those are quite straightforward to move to an earmark reserve. What I would also like to be able to do, but I'm not quite sure how best to deliver this, would be at the end of the financial year when we've got the final actual expenditure or the budget, essentially the actuals, kind of look across the entire set of earmarked reserves, see where the underspends are, and decide how much of our underspend, hopefully the net underspend, goes to general reserves and what might go to earmarked reserves. But I'm not quite sure how to square that with this current proposal. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that I'm fully in favour of this motion, but can we also look at some point when we know the actuals for the financial year and consider whether there's any other further movements to and from earmarked reserves? I guess that's a question for our RFO, so thank you.
Chair, can I just point of clarification?
What's the clarification?
Point of clarification is that the general reserve is effectively the working balance on our income and expenditure account, and therefore there isn't an amount that's transferred to general reserve as such at the end of the year.
Can I ask Theodora to step in, please? She has her hand up. So.
Yes, and the idea is that basically everything stays in general reserves unless it's for a specific project and or something like with the elections where we want to spread it evenly. And the one thing I was just going to say, sometimes the timing is very tight. And it's after the end is closed, it's very difficult to make any amendments to the end, because effectively they have to be done both in the old and the new year. And I can certainly share it, but I don't know whether there will be a meeting at the appropriate time. And yes, I mean, I can share, I can send the F&G an email, but whether that would go through a meeting, I cannot guarantee.
I think we'll move to the 31st of March. Look at the state of the reserves and look at what Councillor Pitts wants to look at. As I say, a lot of these are a build up of reserves to pay for something in our future planning, which I know Councillor Thorpe has been wanting this council to do for years, is actually have some proper future planning with these reserves being built up, so we're not hit with the expected bills like memorial inspections to take out a general reserve. So I don't think there's many there. We could do that. I mean, I think some should stay in earmarked reserves if we've not spent, just to keep it there, because that gives for example, youth council on there, that can get a bit more money budget to play with the year after. You know, they don't have to go back to have more to the precept. So we can look at that in the next meeting maybe. I've got on the agenda to look at what the balances are and discuss them further then, if that's okay, Councillor Pitts.
That's great. I think it's just something that, between you, me, and Theodora, we can figure out a strategy for. I don't think it's complicated. We just haven't quite got there yet. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a proposer. Councillor Chapman.
Sorry, I was just going to remind you there is a motion on the table that all of these amounts be moved to earmarked reserves.
Not yet.
Yeah, we have a seconder for Councillor Green for that. All in favour?
Yes.
Against?
Yep.
Not yet. Too premature.
So abstentions? Okay, so that's carried. Okay, we now have Gerard from Three Pillars here now, so we shall move back to item 5 and members to consider a grant application from the Three Pillars Feeding the Homeless. I'll just go to the front page, you bear with me.
Sorry, Chair, just to note a message from RFO again, this is a recommendation to full council rather than
it's recommended to full council. It was recommended to council, sorry. Okay, there we go. Nearly there. This iPad's doing me editing tonight. Okay, so we have Jed Dempsey, trustee of the Three Pillars, is here to present for a grant for £10,000 to provide electricity supply to a secure storage unit that houses clothes, laundry, shoes, etc. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. My apologies for being late, but it was a long drive back from Southend, unfortunately. I don't think the listing office particularly liked me to put me down there today, of all days.
You are the last item now.
Good, thank you. I'll try and get through it fairly quickly so I don't delay you. Our charity started 5 years ago, can't believe it, in this August. And so we principally started in Peterborough, but we've set up in St Neots, and we currently have somewhere in the order of 45 volunteers. Most of those are from the St Neots area, Eton, Soken, Amesbury and other areas. The purpose of the grant is simply we currently service somewhere in the order of 50 to 55 households, also including Paynes Mill, on a daily basis with food parcels. The difficulty we're having is that we used to have a big old bus, but people used to break into that and damage it. So we were able to acquire our storage unit. The difficulty with that is that we end up having to dispose of and throw away a huge amount of food. So the local pig farm down the road does extremely well. So the local pigs are extremely well fed, but we're having to abort lots of high quality food, fresh food, which I'm sure would benefit the residents of St Neots. The electricity supply is there so we can put refrigeration in, so we can actually store fresh fruit, fresh sandwiches that we get from Greggs and from M&S, and also from Waitrose and Aldi, who donate locally to us. Unfortunately, it requires a dig, and that's where the bulk of the cost is, to actually dig out the channels and then put in the mains electricity. So I don't know if I can assist you anymore, but that's the principal reason, so we can actually continue to supply or start to supply fresh fruit and fruit to local people. It started off with probably about 10, 15 houses. We're now up to, I think it's 54 we did today. And that goes out every day. So if anybody's got any questions, I'd be delighted to try and assist and help.
Thank you, Jeff, for that presentation. Councillor Chapman, just quick in there.
Thank you, Chairman. I just like to say I've got great admiration for the work that Three Pillars do. I supported the acquisition of the van through the Mayor's Charity a few years ago, and I have actually supported them with various donations during the past year, and been involved with a number of homeless charities that Three Pillars are also involved with, and therefore I'm wondering whether or not I have to declare an interest at this stage.
No, I don't think so. No, okay. I don't think so. No, you know, we all volunteer where we can. If we all declared an interest in something we did to someone, then nothing we get when we have voting anything. So
just one extension that we've just embarked on recently. We've just joined up with it's an organisation called Supported Housing Fellowship, and in the last 8 weeks we've been able to open 3 houses which are multi-occupancy houses of high quality, and in fact I just heard today on the phone coming up that there's another 6-bed. These are all purpose built. So we should hopefully in Peterborough have 42 beds by the end of May. And we'll then move to, we've already engaged with Huntingdon District Council, and also we would look to put some accommodation in St Neots, which would be either temporary or supported accommodation. So this supported accommodation includes full support. So that's if there's drug issues or mental health issues or alcohol issues, there will be support counsellors there to guide them through and to actually get them back into society. Looking at the figures the other day, I think we've now housed 79 people. Doesn't sound a lot in 5 years, of which 52 of those are now working and off benefits. We've got a great relationship with Reed Employment, and these are not 0-hour contract jobs. These are proper contract jobs with full pay, and it's just great to see people go across that line. And in fact, what you've seen, hopefully been able to look at the case studies, particularly if I draw your attention to Brian Noble, who was a great success. He's now the IT manager at Perkins Diesels, and from off the street where he was bankrupted, he's now earning somewhere in the order of £50,000 a year, and also got a Mercedes car. So, and when somebody phones you up and says, I just want to thank you for giving me my life back and put me back in the human race, there's no value of money can actually, it's just wonderful to hear that.
Brilliant, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Pitt.
Thank you very much. I think the cause is excellent, and I really appreciate the work that Three Pillars do. So thank you for bringing this in front of us. Can I just check in terms of the costs that you anticipate? I'm sorry, if I haven't got to grips with the application form, I've kind of tried to scan through it quickly.
Yeah.
So there's a quote from UK Power Networks for the electricity supply with 3, A, B and C, and I understand those are different options, and A is obviously the highest figure, and I understand that's for the UKPN to do the whole of the works.
Yeah.
So that's coming in at 6741, and then we have the grant application for 12621, and just if you could talk through what the full figure covers.
The grant 10.
The grant application is for 10. We've provisioned, I think, the £2,600 and odd, which will come out of our funds. And that will also go for the groundwork and some additional work that needs to be done to get the electricity supply both internally within the unit as well as the external unit.
Okay, thank you. So just to clarify, so yes, the application's for 10,000. So the estimated total cost of 12,621.
Yeah.
How did you come to that figure?
Well, if you look, there should be two quotes there. There should be one which is UK Power, and then you've got another one which is from a contractor.
That's one I've missed. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's the name of the contractor, just so I can find it in the document?
Sorry, Chair, I think I might have just attached the one quote because I think I've received two quotes that were the same. So it might be, Jed, that, you know, you've sent me two quotes which were the same, but not
it's
sent
highly
the same.
likely, Teddy. It's highly likely. Just let me see if I can get that.
Because I do remember there were two attachments, and then I opened and they were all the same, and I said, well, there's no point attaching the same.
All right. No, well, there was just let me get this.
Do you have the quotes there we can share, Teddy, Karen?
It sounds like Teddy might have received the same document twice.
Yes, yeah, I'll double check, but that's what I when I was saving for agenda, that's, yeah.
All right, just let me see if I can get this up and I can send it to you today. That's the lease. Right, I've got it. If I forward this to you, Teddy, will you be able to then share it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, that's gone. So that's from AG Electric.
So just to clarify, the first quote here is from the UK Power Networks at
Correct.
181, yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one is to do to install a consumer unit with the supply into the cabins and the connections. And that comes out at £5,880. That makes the total then.
Sorry, can you see the screen? Can
Yep.
you see the?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see that, Teddy. Yeah, the 5880, yeah.
Yeah.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
I don't really know an awful lot about this process, but I know a little bit from looking at it for St. Neots Festival. I'm slightly nervous that there may be some crossover in the two pieces of work. The groundworks, trenchings, and installed duct to make good for £3,000. Whether that overlaps with the work that's being quoted for by UKPN, I don't know. So I'm sort of, you know, I'm making a bit of a stab in the dark here, but I just wanted to see if Jed has any further thoughts on that.
I understand these are two separate pieces of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a useful comment at this stage from me. I mean, all I can suggest is that if it turns out that, you know, the amount required,
then yeah,
if the costs end up being lower, if you could come back to the town council.
We will, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only sensible thing we can ask.
As I understand it, looking at the schedule from UK Power, that is part of the work, but not all of it, and they only go so far.
Yeah, that sounds quite realistic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Chairman. This is something I think we need to clarify, and that is that we're being asked to fund improvements to a lease, a building which is on a relative short-term lease of 5 years. Now, I recognise the parties involved, and I wouldn't in a million years suggest that there was anything untoward, but I believe that the councils should have some form of legal advice on putting in a power supply for a building that's being leased for 5 years.
Can I just the owner of the property is the co-founder's son.
Yeah.
We pay a pep rent, and we have a rolling ongoing lease. Obviously, I understand your concern that you invest a huge amount of money, and 5 years we're off somewhere else. Well, or they terminate the lease. I would like to think that Mick's son would not do that, but we can't be certain. But if we can get further sureties from that, or maybe extend it to a 10-year lease, would that satisfy you, Councillor Chapman?
I'm not. I mean, as my concern is really that the council is being asked to pay for improvement of a property on a short-term lease, and you know, anything can happen in 5 years' time with someone's personal circumstances, and they may wish to sell the property, or any. And I just like this the advice from the relevant people from the council side that we can do this. I mean, I'm fully supportive of it, but I think that we do need to cross the T's and dot the I's on that.
I think that's prudent, and if there's anything that we could do to create a better comfort factor, we can look at that and come back. Yeah. But I would think it is prudent to, because it's a significant amount of money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So, in which case, there are no proposals. I don't think there's a proposal yet, but Councillor Pitt's got his hand up, so I'll let him speak first.
Thank you. Just I think that's an excellent point, Councillor Chapman. Just as a point of reference, when Loves Farmhouse applied for funding, we needed to demonstrate a 30-year lease in order to secure £43,000 worth of funding. And I think although it's another hurdle for Three Pillars to jump over, hopefully it puts Three Pillars on a stronger footing going forwards if we stipulate a certain number of years of lease that we would want to see in order to release the money.
I think it would give us comfort as well. So it's not a bad discipline for us. I mean, when we set this up, we are, as you're probably aware from the documentation that was sent out, it is a Masonic charity, and our provincial Grand Master was quite well. He had a number of concerns. The first one was, if you start this, you will create a dependency, so you have to be able to continue doing it. Secondly, which is a very personal one, is if you brand this Freemasonry and it hits the wall, and it's not good for Freemasonry in general, and certainly not good for my province in particular. And thirdly, and most importantly, you cannot just be a handout, you have to be a hand up. So you have to find a way of breaking the circle. So that's then forced us to engage with lots of agencies. I mean, we've done temporary accommodation in hotels, in the Premier Inn at Brampton, in the Travel Lodge down at the Black Cat roundabout, where we get calls at 9:15 at night, 10:30 at night, and that requires either me or Mick or one of our volunteers to go out, pick these individuals up. We have great arrangements with the Travel Lodge and the Premier Inn. In fact, the Premier Inn in Brampton gives us a discounted rate and pays for the meals in the harvester, principally because the general manager there spent 8 months being homeless, so he has a particular awareness of the traumas in homelessness. So, but I take on board what you say, Councillor Chapman, and I think for our own benefit as well, it would be beneficial.
Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I propose that we grant the £10,000 subject to a 10-year proof of a 10-year lease?
I'll second that.
And does that satisfy the legals, cross the T's and dot the I's, Councillor Chapman, you're wanting regarding the?
Well, I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to judge. I mean, I fully support it, but it really is a matter of advice from the council. It's got to go to full council anyway, so hopefully we'll know by then.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've volunteered 3 times this year with 3 Pillars. I've seen firsthand the facility and also seen firsthand the fantastic work they do in the community, how much they help people. They're going to be one of my mayoral charities as well when I hand out my cheques like this month, and it's something that I fully support. It's not just homeless people. There's lots of other vulnerable people in the community that Mick and Jed and the volunteers support, and I think it does a tremendous amount of and something the whole town should be proud of, to be honest. So I will be supporting this motion.
One of the other additional things that we seem to have drifted into is with my work in the judiciary, is that you may not be aware, but Huntingdon Court is a specialist court, and the only activity that goes on in that court is domestic abuse trials and domestic abuse hearings. I sit in that court normally on a Tuesday, but today I was lumbered with Southend. There's an organisation which is called IDVA, which is the Independent Domestic Violence Agency. We support them. We have housed, I think it's 51 of those individuals. We've moved people to safe houses, a number of them from St Neots. We moved one lady from St Neots to Canterbury within 3 days' notice. We moved another lady from St Neots to Skelmersdale, and another one. So,
Chair,
and that's done free.
Chair, this meeting is being recorded, and I think that we need to be careful because I believe, I mean, Gerard wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting when that was said.
Okay.
And it goes out on YouTube.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've not named any names or anything, so but it is a service that we do provide.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to make Jed aware that this committee can only authorise up to £5,000, and anything over than that has to go to a full council with a recommendation only from this committee.
Understood.
Yep. Okay. So, Councillor Thorpe, your proposal, is for grant the whole money on a 10-year lease. Could we amend that to include to seek advice from the clerk regarding the payment of that for?
Yes, I'm happy to accept that.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, we'll do that. Who's your seconder?
I was.
Do you have that amendment, Councillor Chapman?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Pitt.
Thank you. So I think we've covered, as Theodore has noted, that as you've described. I think I would also reassure me if we could just get clarification on the second part of the quote, and that those 2 pieces of work dovetail correctly. That would be really, I don't think it needs to be part of the motion, but if that could be available by the time that the full council sees this, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's done.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there's no further question, move to the vote. So for the full amount, this will So this will need to be the remainder of the community support group pot, which is sitting at 4839. The remainder of the COVID-19 pot, which is 4150, and that leaves £1,011 to come from the general grants.
Yep.
Okay. All in favour?
Yes.
Against? Against? Abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much for your time, Jed. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
So that's to recommend to full council as well. Yeah. Okay. That's it. That was the last item. Thank you for your time tonight, councillors. I draw this meeting to a close.
It's a bit early, Chair, isn't it? 20 to 9.
Can we have a brief?
My wife don't want to.
Quiet, Stephen. Quiet.
Can we have a quick look at the proposals, Mr. Chairman?
Is this in the meeting or outside of the meeting?
Either.
You're outside of the meeting.
Can we
now.
stop recording then, please?
Okay, so the proposals were.
The proposals are in the chat.
Let's go to the chat now. Go. So here we go. So it was the £5,000 from the £2,500 community support grant. So £5,000 for MacPass, 2.5 from community support grant fund, and 2,500 COVID-19. We deferred
the financial regs.
Deferred the financial regs next meeting. We then recommended to full council the investment strategy for the amendment of the yield for this for the investment yield for this year, and we have proposing to FC is it to full council? Yeah, proposal to full council to move the earmark balances. Earmark reserve balances to earmark balances earmark reserves for 31st of March. And we will look at them again next meeting as to what the balances are, and if there are any that aren't required, we can move to the general reserve. That's again to full council. We are then proposed and seconded £10,000 for 3 pillars.
Teddy's comment at the bottom. So 10 grand, the full amount that you broke down across the 3 grant pots: community, COVID, and general. To use up community and COVID first. The figures are on the minutes. I can read those 2 figures back if you would like. I think you said 4839 community, 4150 COVID,
and
the remainder from general grants.
Yeah.
And that goes to full council as well, with the lease extended to 10 years.
And any comments from the clerk as well?
Subject to a 10-year. Proof of a 10-year lease.
I can't change the resolutions now. We're outside of the meetings and they've been resolved. So it says extended.
I think that was part of the motion.
That was part of the motion.
That was part of the motion.
Okay, I thought they read out Teddy's comments, but that's fine.
No, I think it was commented. The council thought proposed the full amount on subject to a 10-year lease.
And the clerk's opinion, yeah.
And the clerk's.
Yes, that's in there. Yeah, that's in there. Clerk's bit. Okay, so I've changed that to subject to.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I think we just need to slow down a little bit because Karen's very dutifully putting the resolutions proposals in the chat, but actually we're tending to vote on them before we see them. So let's just when we get to a vote, let's make sure that we just pause for 30 seconds, wait for it to appear in the chat, so there's no confusion about what's on the table, if that's all right with everybody.
That's an excellent idea. Before we go to any vote, we should go to chat and look at the actual what's recorded.
Yeah. I can imagine really Karen frantically trying to keep up with various amendments.
Especially really when there's 2 or 3 different ones made for the same item.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, that's it then, everybody. Thanks for your time.
We're all now happy little teddies.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Gordon,
Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Gordon,
Enjoy the
can
rest
I
of your
grab
evening.
you